And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Grant.
My name is Dave.
After a week break, we have returned to My Hero Academia, Season 5, Episode 15. Before we jump right into the thick of it, this is an anime-only podcast, if it's your first time listening. And we want to give a shout-out to Zarin Art on Instagram and Twitter for our Hawks thumbnail this week. If I mispronounce that, I apologize. We've tagged you in the socials, but thank you for dope art.
Love that art. I love the color palette of this one.
Yeah, well, when you had sent that to me, I think I had texted you, like, the first thing I thought of was, like, oh, this looks exactly like the Persona. I almost wonder if this was, like a mashup of Persona 5. Like, are you aware of that game, Dave?
I don't have a clue.
Yeah, it's a really popular series. It's basically like an anime-esque JRPG.
Okay.
But the aesthetic, like the red and black with like the white accents. I haven't played it either, mind you, but it's been it's been throughout the zeitgeist of like the PS4 cycle. It's just I feel like I know everything about Persona without even actually playing it. Anyway, so this art looked just like it's super cool.
Sounds like a vibe.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll jump right into the synopsis. As the villains continue to move behind the scenes, Endeavor helps his work-study students with the next steps in their training.
Interesting episode. We're
great
moving.
Episode.
Yeah,
we're great moving. Episode. Funny, very funny episode.
Yeah, there was some good comedy in here. This is like kind of. It feels like what you sign up for with this show.
100%.
It was a good one.
Yeah. So before we get into it, I listened back to last week's episode, or the last My Hero pod, and I don't know what state I was in. I don't know how I thought the buddy. You know when there's the scene between Hawks and is it Slide and Go?
Yes.
And there's the dude in the background. I don't know why I thought that could have been like Shigaraki. Or
yes.
Like that wasn't who it is. I was just I was so tired that episode, and listening back I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? And like, after watching this episode, couldn't be farther from the truth. But this is a really good episode. Not like that it's like a huge return to form, because I feel like the show's been still kind of itself, but like just the inconsistency of the episode. This is the most like straightforward episode we've had in a while.
Yeah, this one, like, there hasn't really been any I don't want to say filler, but like there hasn't been a lot of distractions from the main plot, right?
Sure.
It's like what's going on with Hawks and this undercover gig that he's got, and what's going on with Midoriya and that crew.
Yeah.
And that's the whole episode.
We could have used this all season.
Yeah, 100%.
More of this.
Maybe this stuff will come like in handy, a lot of the stuff that we learned or saw in the class battles, but I've just have a feeling that's a ways away, but who knows.
I think like we'll get like dividends on that like later. Like I wouldn't necessarily say this season, because I
agree.
But there's one moment, and we'll talk about it. We'll wait till then, and we'll reference back to this. But so a very Hawks centric episode, which I think we kind of needed a little more of. Like it's been a little more than a drip feed. I feel like we've gotten like a good idea of him, but this was like a really good Hawks episode,
Yeah, I agree. He's such a good character. I want to see more of him. I'm really, really interested to see if he keeps up this ruse with the League of Villains. It really feels like they would have to see through this. Like
it kind of feels like they know, right?
Yeah, it feels like he's trying to be a double agent, and they're like, "Yo, you're like one of the most popular heroes ever. What are you doing? This is the worst cover."
Because like they've kind of set the tone with Dobby from the get-go, the beginning of the season, where he just plainly doesn't trust Hawks.
Yeah,
and you can kind of see not so much like the rest of the other people we see in the episode, like the League of Villains. But it's just like his actions. It just seems so like, oh, this guy's clearly like snooping,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm for it. Like I said, it's good character, not character development, but it's a little more revealing of his character. But
so yeah, the episode kind of starts with that, right? Hawks is there. He's giving a report to these villains that we haven't seen in a little while, and it's all like characters I like. Like Twice is there, Dobby is there. I forget the scary girl. I always think of her as Scary Girl. She's the creepy one.
Toga?
Yeah, I think it's Toga.
Yeah.
So they're there. One thing I really liked is that they kind of remind the audience, because I had frankly forgotten, that like they're keeping an eye specifically on Midoriya and Bakugo and those kids.
Yeah.
Because they show a freeze frame of them in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a quick note of like Hawks is spying on them using like a spare feather, which is kind of neat.
That was really, really cool. I did like the moment where Hawks kind of has a moment of saying, "Oh, it was good that I showed off in front of the kids."
Yeah.
Like, kind of gave them a little cover, showing like it kind of set the expectation that they're not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Hawks is like, no, like they were on it. Like I was just fucking faster. Like he wanted to be seen, right? Like that was, I thought that was cool. And it's funny that they can. You don't think anything of that, like when we saw that scene where Hawk shows up at the end of last episode, you don't necessarily think that that's going to have some connotation later. Like you just think it's kind of like a Sakuga moment where they're all flashing in and Hawk just beats them to it. But like this actually has precedence going forward. It's usually shows like this, they're a little heavy-handed of like, oh, this is going to be big later down the road. And this was kind of like a small, like you wouldn't have ever thought that this would get brought up again, that moment of him beating him to the punch rather. And it kind of sets some, it's like a win for the heroes going down the road, because they're going to have like Midoriya, Bakugo and Todoroki, you're going to have a little bit of advantage going forward, So it was that kind of just like weirdly really stuck out to me in a really cool way.
No, I agree. I think it's cool that they had a character kind of, make note to the audience that the kids have grown. It's not just us, it's not just them that are noticing, but, Hawks and, considering his position, so for someone like him to say that, it's probably kind of valuable. Mm-hmm. That meeting ends, and then that's when, I already forgot her name, was it Toga?
Toga, yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who says, this plot, this thing, quote, that is going to happen in 4 months or so. It's going to be Tomura, and he's going to destroy everything, whatever that means. And as a reminder, both for you and I and the audience, like we've seen him a little bit, maybe in one scene this season, but it was him like laughing, maniacally, looking all villain like.
Of the city,
amidst that destruction of that city, and there's been other things that have flitted around about not there've been other catastrophes that are similar in other cities, so we can maybe assume that he's connected to those as well. So he's up to something, and this just serves as like a gentle reminder that like,
the big bad is out there.
Yeah, he's out there. He's doing things.
Yeah.
Then we get like this. You said like this was a Hawks heavy episode. And I think you're right. I mean, I really liked this whole this sequence of Hawks like figuring out how the hell am I gonna bust them.
Yeah.
Like, because you were right? Heroes are in on it, and they're helping coordinate with this League of Villains. So, it'd be so cool. Is I kind of hope we know a few of the heroes that are double agents.
I would be shocked if we weren't. Yeah. Like, it wouldn't be.
I just don't want it to be like fun. Nameless. Yeah, I don't want it to be like nameless heroes you've never met. Yeah. Yeah.
Like total softball, but they've been really teasing this. Is her name Flamin? The fire-haired girl that works for Endeavor.
The green-haired.
The green-haired girl, yeah.
Yeah, something like it's somewhere in there. Yeah. What about it?
Because anyway, so that would be kind of cool because they kind of just introduced her, but that could be kind of like a red because they introduced some new heroes this season simultaneously with the fact that there is some heroes in on this evil conspiracy. So
I see what you mean.
That could be some red herring because we already have like Slide and Go as confirmed one, new and evil.
Yeah. Well, we've got we've mentioned this before, but just quickly, like this show introduces new characters all the time, constantly, right?
And like shamelessly doesn't bat an eye, which I kind of like really respect.
Oh yeah, they're just like here's this guy.
Catch up, pick up the pace.
Yeah. So I have to imagine that over the years they can grab a few good ones that we've come to know and like, that could be revealed as like villains, or that double agent heroes.
I will say I would be surprised if it's anyone like obviously like Hawks is like a double agent, but I would be surprised if it was anyone in the top 10.
It would be cool if there was though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Like Mountain Lady, they brought her back this season.
Dude, that would be so cool if she was in.
Minato would be crushed because he had such a big, because he like idolizes her. That would be pretty interesting, or like
Yeah.
The tree. There's that
Oh,
tree.
the
dude.
tree guy. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
All cool heroes.
Yeah.
They flash to Endeavor, who he's kind of like it's kind of like going back and forth between Hawks and Endeavor at this point, and it's Endeavor putting it together, right?
Yeah.
And they sort of answered this question that the show posed like a few episodes ago, like why are we going back to work studies? Yeah. And net, it seems to be because, you know, the commission is aware that something is going on, and they want to like juice their workforce a little bit, in anticipation of potentially something really bad happening.
Yeah.
Sinister.
Yeah, and this is more of Endeavor. It did feel a little like it wasn't like shot for shot from last episode, but it kind of was like going over like the ending of last episode.
Yep.
Again too, and I was like, they're back at it again. Like they're filling in the gaps with stuff we've seen, but like they did change some, you know, like words were differently, but it was like it was rehashing it all. It's just, I think it's the new sin of My Hero Academia. You know, it's just like this random little pockets of filler.
Yeah, big time. I mean, that might even be an anime thing. I'm gonna have to look out for it now and see how often that happens.
Well, it's funny, and we'll get into this in the post show, but you know, Leanne and I are in the middle of rewatching a show, and it's one that I've seen already. So
what is it?
If you guys want, it's like Attack on Titan.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't, because you know it's been years ago, but there's a lot of these moments too. It's like, oh shit, like Attack on Titan did it. So, and I was thinking back to you and I last week talking about it, and it just might be a thing that we've just never really noticed, and they are doing it, you know, for time. So it's interesting. The more you watch, the more you notice, right? So
yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Because Endeavor that realizes, you know, that like we kind of have to get the students a little bit more experience, get them up to par quickly. He's a little more receptive about working with the kids and not just Shoto. There's like a 3-minute scene of Midoriya trying to explain his quirk.
Fucking loved it.
That was very solid, eh?
And the best part is at the end of it, Endeavor was like, yes. Like, was 100% like he got it. And I was like, finally, like someone who kind of gets Midoriya's like fucking weirdness, or not even like his over analyzation of everything, you know, to his detriment and to his benefit. And it just goes to show like how dope Endeavor can be. Like there's a reason he is where he is in this position. Like, you know, like he gets it, you know, it's, and all of them too. And they really took the moments to shine on the 3 kids, but I feel like Endeavor in the end is the one that came out on top in this scene.
I think that's a good take. Yeah, it is, because everybody sort of says like, here's my 5-season arc up to now. I have 3 minutes to tell it to you, and it's you know, it's a good way to show growth, because I think Bakugou's moment in particular was pretty good too.
Yes.
You know, because he starts by saying like typical Bakugou arrogant shit, which is like, I want to know what I can't do.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love that line. But then, you know, he sort of says, you know, being strong, you know, isn't what makes someone truly strong. You know, if you remember him back in these early seasons where he was really just like a blunt force kind of tool of a character. But he's come so far, I think, in particular, maybe in the last 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, it was good to see him and Shoto and Ko kind of, you know, summarize what they've been through. But like you said, it was cool to see Endeavor just sort of like go into like mentorship mode.
Yeah, on all 3 of them, and they took the time with each one. I do think another special thing we should really kind of take a moment with is with Shoto. Like, you know, he kind of just tries to walk away, and Shoto goes, no, I'm gonna get my fucking I'm gonna get my word in with you. And this was the scene, because you know we've been talking about it a couple times throughout this season, is how the show is trying to justify Endeavor's behavior prior to now.
Yep.
And I think this was the first real moment where like they kind of came ahead to like not justify his actions before, but like he truly is gonna have to atone for the way he acted. Yeah. Going forward, and I was like, okay, so like it was kind of just they tiptoed around it a little bit this season, and this was just fought out. Like, no, like you were a bad dude. Like, I don't forget that. Like everyone remembers, but like we're gonna try and work forward, like one step at a time. And I think that was like the best way to go about that, you know?
I agree. I'm glad that they took that moment. You could tell it kind of took the sails out of Endeavor there for a moment, or the wind out of his sails. But I thought that was like good and important, right?
Yes.
It's not like, hey, like I need your help doing this thing, so I guess you can be my dad. It was more like, hey, you know, I'm giving you the opportunity to teach me, because you're my dad, but that doesn't mean that like everything's okay now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that
I was
took a
afraid
moment.
they were gonna whitewash that and kind of just like put it behind and like make Endeavor like he's all good now. Like let's just forget that previous stuff. I'm glad they took the time to like fully acknowledge it, because like, they had done a little bit prior, but
yeah, because if you don't take the time to like recognize that like you've kind of established this really dark history between two characters, and then only to like whitewash it later, it's just kind of a waste, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why set it up like that? Like, why bring the abuse angle in and all this weird stuff in if you're not gonna like use that thread? And I think they're using that thread, you know, like it's sparingly, like it's, you know, it's not super dark, but I think that they're using it, you know, and not just whitewashing it, like you said, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Then, you know, they kind of hit the field at this point. This is like this, I guess you'd call it like the last, what do you think, the last act or the third act of the show? Of this,
yeah. Last leg, I suppose, yeah.
And it's by far the best. I mean, it's action packed. Yeah. I loved it. It's Endeavor monologuing about how he does parallel processing, and he kind of outlines the goal. He says, you know, your goal for this whole work study or this winter is show me that you can catch a villain faster than me.
Yeah.
Just one.
Challenge accepted. I love it. All three of them are fucking up to the challenge, which I love.
Yeah, big time. I love the animation of him zooming around. I love, like, you know, Shoto recognizing, like, oh, he's using the flames to propel himself. And then, like, Endeavor gets this badass moment of, like, he's still monologuing, but he saves a girl from getting hit by a car.
Yeah. I do love that they're really using the Shoto and Bakugou comedy duo, like, these past couple episodes, because, you know, like, Shoto tries to, like, make a reference or saying like how, oh, your power looks similar to mine, and Bakugo's like, what are we, friends? Like, how why are you watching that, or how do you know that about me?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you've been going to school with this guy for how long, you've done all this it's so funny just how not out of touch Bakugo is, but he's just so wrapped up in himself.
Yeah.
In like, not, it's, he's a very interesting character. I would love to dissect, like, just have like an episode to dissect him, you know, between you and me, because he's one of the most rich characters in anime, I think, anything that I've seen, just because like he's so simultaneously one note but has all this weird fucking range. He's an enigma to me. Like, I love Bakugo.
Well, Bakugo is a really good example of what this, we've talked about this before, but Bakugo is a really good example of what this show is best at. And that's like plucking characters out of thin air, being like, this is what you're about, and I'm going to drop you into this scene, and you're going to play these notes perfectly, and then we're going to, you know, use you later when we need you. Now, obviously, Bakugo is one of the main characters, so he gets more development than a lot of these other characters, and a lot more focus, and he's more rich as a result. But I think what I'm saying is, like, they just use him really well. And every time he hits a zinger like that, it's not out of character, because you know exactly what he's about. Yeah, I really like that scene too. You're right. I don't think I picked up on that they have been like really pushing the. Well, I guess they didn't see a lot of each other in the class battles, but in this arc of the season, they have been pushing the Shoto Bakugou pairing.
Because they also failed the provisional test together, right? It's like there's that built history over the past few seasons that we haven't seen a ton of, because while they were going away to their weekend classes or whatever, everyone else is off doing their own adventures, kind of thing. So yeah. It would be fun to like a look back on you know, just the stuff they got up to. But so by the end of this episode, I don't know if you were thinking this, but do you feel like they're really potentially setting up the new movie with these three, like getting everyone comfortable seeing these three together all at one time?
Yeah, kind of. And that's kind of funny, because I don't think they've done that before.
Yeah, and this thing, I don't know, is the movie canon, or do we know that?
So none of their movies have been canon. It's possible that that's different. Like, you know, maybe this one is canon, and that's why they're taking care to set it up a little bit more. But, you know, I think it's also possible that this arc is just an arc with the 3 or 4 of these characters, and they're just gonna interject a big, powerful, punchy side quest halfway through it that like may not matter a ton to the main plot.
That would make sense.
You know, it might be more that this arc provided the opportunity for a movie rather than the arc as a setup to the movie.
Sure.
But I don't know, you know, which is which. We should find that out for the next week.
Yeah, we should look into that.
I think that's more or less it for this episode. You know, I thought there were some good parts, like Endeavor kind of giving them more examples of parallel processing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's like driving
stuff.
a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
really,
you know, that's
really cool.
That's a good one. But it's you know, I think this was kind of Endeavor's episode, or at least it was by the time it wrapped up, because it's more about him teaching, which is weird because you haven't thought about him in that way.
I think this is going to develop his character even more. I think he's going to come out just as beneficial, you know, than, you know, as they're, you know, as what they're receiving. This also makes me think, like, has he ever had students?
I mean,
like, obviously he's had people work for him, but like straight out of the school, I wonder.
He's got his own agency, right? So maybe, you know, maybe he's had sidekicks and interns and work study students before, but
he's definitely never did one-on-one like this.
Yeah, I don't think he's done, you know, like a actual like teaching gig like All Might was doing, or Aizawa. I also think like it was kind of a hint towards that like, you know, in the setup or in the beginning of this episode, he goes like, oh, like, I was really just extending the interview to Shoto. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like super stoked to teach the other two kids. And then he kind of pieced that, you know, that plot stuff together, and he's like, okay, fine. Like, I'll help the other two kids as well. But I don't think that's like up his alley. I don't think he's passionate about it. You know, maybe that'll change. But I think this is new to him too. And like you said, that's really good prep for some character development.
Also, one last thing before we go. What about that throwaway line? Because he kind of makes an assessment on Midoriya's abilities.
Yeah, he picks up real quick after Midoriya's monologue about like, oh, that's a lot like All Might.
And then he also kind of says something, oh, like you're one of us. You have some catching up to do.
Yeah,
I was like, what's that about? You know, they kind of just like threw that in and then like moved right on.
In the moment, I thought, and I could be wrong, and this could be something deeper. In the moment, I thought, like, by one of us, he meant like me and Shoto, and like your quirk is almost too powerful for you, and you have to like figure it out.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought, but like I could be wrong.
I see that.
But you can imagine, like, Shoto doesn't seem to be in short of firepower, right? It just seems to be his ability to control it.
Sure.
And I have to imagine that Endeavor had a similar experience growing up.
Yeah, power overwhelming.
Yeah, but who knows? I don't know. I think that probably wraps up today's episode, though.
I think so. It was a nice, quick and easy episode.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're back every week with episodes of My Hero Academia, and then a day or two later, we drop an episode of the post show. On the post show, we talk about everything else we're watching. Like this week, we're going to cover Loki season 1, a bunch of anime news, and other fun entertainment news. So definitely give that a listen if you haven't already. And please, you know, support us on social media. Do all of the appropriate social media things on the appropriate social media platforms. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.